Hi everyone, my name's Declan McGlynn. Welcome to Friday Forum Live, Point Blank's weekly broadcast bringing you exclusive tutorials, artist interviews and industry insight every Friday live from East London. Today we're showing you how to create and process recordings to build up your own personal sample library. All right, we are joined by Point Blank Creative Director JC Concato to show you how to process drum recordings for use as samples in your tracks. If you want to dive deeper into mixing, sound design and all that good stuff, make sure you check out our courses at pointblanklondon.com. And remember, we are live, so get your questions in and we'll get to them throughout the broadcast. JC, welcome back for another Friday Forum Live.
Thank you, Declan.
How are you doing?
Yeah, very good. Very
Excellent.
good, thank you.
Excellent. So, just to give everyone a bit of a backstory,
Yeah.
what we're going to do is look at sampling. So,
Yeah,
recording your own samples, processing your samples.
Yeah.
Creating something unique, basically.
Yeah, basically, yes. But we're going to, there's several ways to do it. And we've taken the angle of today, creating a simple drum break.
Okay.
Creating your own break beat.
Yeah.
And so therefore, we've recorded our own drums quickly downstairs.
Oh, okay, yes, we did, of course.
And,
I forgot about that.
So, yes. So we recorded our own drums downstairs, and it is to show the process of basically do something, and it doesn't have to be drums. We'll discuss about that.
Yeah.
So shall we start maybe watching first?
Yeah?
Quickly the video recording of the session?
Can we roll that clip?
Okay, give me the kick, please. You know what, to get that kind of 60s sound a little bit more, we get the blanket of the kick, because the drum it's too nice, it's almost too posh. To get a bit more ring on the kick. Can you play it to me now? Yeah. Don't hit it so hard as well. Let's play it a bit more 60s. Yeah. Can you give me the snare? Kick, snare, hat, please.
All right, we are downstairs at Point Blank here in Studio One. We're going to try and record some drums today with the amazing JC Concato. We've got 3 mics, SER1, an AKG D12, and a classic 57. And now we're going to sample up some drums and then show you guys how to chop them up. So here we go. Nice one. So as you saw there, it was a very simple setup. 3 microphones and one overhead, one in the snare, one in the kick. And yeah, good job, JC. Nailed it, as usual. I love your drum face, by the way. I got some comments about that.
Yeah. I think everybody has
really into it.
A drum face, a guitar face.
Bass face, of course, as well.
Absolutely. They're all different.
So you've put what we recorded.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what we wanted to quickly touch on is, people say, well, why should I create my own samples when there are so many sound packs available? Well, obviously, it's the uniqueness of it, It's going to be completely unique. And as well, working with a sample, especially once you put it into a sampler and just trigger a key, there's a limitation about it that takes you into a certain direction. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the kind of history of dance music, electronic music, really. A big part of it anyway, this limitation and the sampling aspect, So I think it's still valid nowadays. And if you do it yourself, you'll have this uniqueness. And a lot of people are saying, well, I can't play. Why should I, what can I sample? It can be anything. I mean, it could be a tambourine, a shaker. I mean, there's a lot of stuff quantizing. You can quantize your audio. I probably will quantize my drum anyway. It can play, it could play, you've got a guitar, just play a chord, even a note. It could be your voice, one word. But that kind of little element in your track, I think, will give you a certain uniqueness that nobody else will have.
Yeah, so and that's what everyone says, isn't it? You got to stand out, you got to be unique, find your own sound. This is literally your own sound.
This is literally your own sound, exactly. The more personal, the more it's you playing, even if it's badly, I think it's completely legitimate, and there's really an angle there. I mean, the main thing as well when you create your own sample is obviously here it's a drum. If it's going to be a big part, there are people recreating all sample entirely. You don't get the rights, those kind of stuff. I had to do that several times, where you just don't get the recording rights, you get the publishing right, not the recording rights, so you replay it. So what's important is considering where is the sample coming from. Is it from the 60s, from the 70s, from the 80s? Is it a 90s house track that I'm emulating as if I had sampled it into a new track now? So when you do those sample creating them, I think you need to take into consideration those production values. So here, what we've done is we've gone for that kind of simple, kind of 60s recording approach like you would have on lots of Beatles records, for example, a D12 on the kick, a mic on the snare. I mean, it's not a 60s mic, it's an SM57. Yeah. That's the approach. And then we went with a ribbon, mono on top. So we're all going to go, here the idea today is we're going to create a little bit gritty drum sample loop, let's say roughly 60s, 70s. Okay. That's kind of the aim. So that's why we've taken all this into consideration. So let's have a listen. I mean, I've isolated a couple of bars, or maybe 3-4 bars, I'm not quite sure, that I thought were okay. I mean, the whole playing I've done, some of it is really bad, but I think those one, I think we can work with that. So that's the drum on their own, and you can have a listen here. We've got the kick. This D12 is lovely, isn't it? It's really the just already on its own, it's kind of nice key. Then you've got the snare. And the snare sounds all right. I mean, it's the Gretsch downstairs. It's a lovely drum kit, actually. And then we've got this overhead drum. Nice ribbon mic, So what you're going to do is after that, I mean, I'm not going to go through how you do mixed drums because there's just too many things that you can, but I'm gonna really, when I create sample, I tend to kind of go quite quickly about it. I try to, I mean, after that you can go really in detail, depends, but here we're gonna do quickly. So I'm thinking first, 60s, recorded to tape. So let's put a tape machine. So for that, I'm gonna use the UAD. As you know, I'm a big fan of the UAD. And I'm gonna put, if I find it, the Studer. So here we've got the Studer across everything. And let's listen to them now separately, maybe. I think we can drive them, maybe. So I'm gonna go, 15-inch. It's got a bit more tape compression at 15-inch. The slower, the more compression you're getting a little bit in a way. The more you input into it, the more compression. So I'm gonna go for quite a bit of driven. Remember we said we wanted something gritty? I'm going to compare, keeping the same level.
Definitely more low mid.
You hear, isn't it? Getting a bit of that grit already. So now let's see for the snare quickly. Yeah. Let's go with that, and then let's go the other head. They were recording quite quiet, that's why they're not hitting the tape so hard. So I'm trying to get that vibe from recording to tape. You know, the more you drive the tape hard, getting a different sound. Okay, so I really try first to work all individually, obviously, you know, individual. And then the whole idea is, the more you're creating a sample, the whole idea is to really get things to gel together. So by the end of it, it really sounds like one source, as if you had been recording it, let's say, from a vinyl. So let's carry on the process. So let's start balancing what we have here. Sounds so much warmer straight away coming from the tape, isn't it? The three studers together are really lovely. Oh, it's really nice. I mean, down. Yeah, well, exactly.
Let's go.
So again, I'm going to go, you know, in the 60s, people wouldn't EQ, parametric, spend a lot of time on doing that kind of stuff, you know. You would have very few, often you would have a 4-track or 8 tracks, therefore quite limited. That means they would have recorded everything onto, maybe sometimes they would have mixed everything to one track. The mix between those 3 mics would have been done live by the engineer. You're committing. And I love this idea of committing. You know, the moment
committing in the recording.
The balance of the 3 mics already at the recording stage.
Right.
Once you've got it onto one track, that's that. You know, I think that's the one element for me with DAW that you're missing a little bit, and I've been really a big victim of that, of always, oh, I'm keeping everything, I can come back. It's kind of like, no. I think the idea of committing is really important. I really believe in that, because then you move forward. So we've got it here, that's it. It's been recorded to tape. So I've bussed everything onto bus 2 here, drum bus. I mean, typically, again, I think you would gel everything together to glue. You would have a compressor, probably. So maybe we could, and an EQ. Compressor-wise, if we were to go with, again, that kind of era, I would go probably with a Fairchild, I would imagine. You know? So I'm going to go with a Fairchild here.
Yeah.
It's really gelling everything together.
Absolutely.
And again, you could, you know, I mean, I'm not going to put more tape because I'll see you'll see what I'm going to do. So we're getting something pretty nice now, aren't you? Yeah. I mean, if we wanted a little bit more, maybe top, a bit sizzling, a bit more bite, maybe we could have an EQ, maybe. I mean, typically, again, we could have the kind of pull tech, I guess, that would give us that vibe. Okay, maybe get rid of a bit of Parliament. Starting to have that it has a nice sizzle on the, you know, the 5K on the snare, brings a bit of the on the hat as well, and it's becoming quite gritty. I mean, I'm overdoing it. Remember, again, I want that kind of vibe, gritty.
You might not feel like this in a mix, but this is just a process to get the car.
Just to get that kind of vibe, yeah. I mean, maybe it's a bit much. Okay, so that would be one approach I'm going with, and you've noticed I put everything, I mean, it's still a stereo here, but we'll end up, a lot of it is mono already going into there. I mean, what else would have a sample? I mean, on the drums may have a bit of a reverb. What type of reverb would it be? Probably like something like a plate or a spring reverb.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the UAD plate, the 140. It's a really lovely So we could go with that. So let's bring a bit of that into the mix as well, maybe. Play it here. Which bus 3, a bit on the snare. And maybe on the overhead a bit. Quite nice. Not too much, I want it to be quite dry. That works as well if you wanted to have that kind of more soulful sound, you know. I mean, you can dose it. Again, it's whatever you want to do with it, really. But let's go with that. Cool. Maybe a bit too much here. Yeah. Okay, let's go with that. Another thing that you could have, if you wanted to bring more grit, more distortion with your samples, could be, let's say, reamping techniques, putting it through a speaker. That really works for me. I mean, here we don't really need it so much, because have you noticed how much more grit we've gained by the tapes, the Studer, the Pultec? We're really getting that grit, so I would probably be quite happy with that, especially knowing I'm going to go further with it in a minute. But I've been in situations sometimes where I didn't have a drum kit. I wanted to create that kind of, especially in the kind of slow, tree poppy, whatever you want to call them. I hate that name, but drum beat. I would play them on the keyboard, you know, from my own samples.
Yeah.
But then there was this kind of lacking gelling, and I've noticed reamping them. It was really kind of helping filling in the holes and stuff like that. So reamping can be a really nice thing to bring that kind of grit and buzz a little bit. Let's try that. I mean, here, again, I haven't worked out anything. I mean, it could be distortion, it could be a distortion pedal, it could be anything. Again, try to be, the more you're going to bring in your uniqueness in what you use, the more individual you'll be. Delay compensation on it.
Seems slightly out, yeah.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be much delay compensation going on. That's because that wasn't there, I think. Yeah. So obviously when you're bussing, make sure the delay compensation is on everything. So here we've got just a Vox, again, kind of a 60s amp. Brings a bit of something about it.
Yeah. And you can be brutal with those settings as well. I mean.
Yeah, look, I'm putting some more. Plus it's got lovely reverb, so we could try that a little bit. No vibrato, but a bit. You hear the little reverb, the spring?
The spring reverb, yeah.
And then let's go with that, shall we?
Sounds pretty good.
Yeah? So you see what we're doing here? Everything starting, the fact that you're getting all of this, now we need to gel that together a bit more. There's one more thing. Let's say I want to make it sound like it's from a vinyl.
Okay, like it's a sample.
Yeah, I'm sampling from a vinyl.
Charity shop.
Yeah, yeah. And now, I mean, you know, you don't have to do it on everything, but on that one, that's what I'm going to do. So I've asked Ben, our DJ tutor, to give me some vinyl noise.
Oh, so he's recorded some.
Yeah, and that's what I would do. I would record some. I used to do that. Record lots of vinyl noise. I used to have a collection of vinyl noise, but my hard drive wasn't available. So.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, so you could have that. I mean, there were times where you can also use maybe that and use the pop to be part of the rhythm. I mean, there's, you know, again, many things are possible. I love doing this kind of stuff. Yeah, let's use that one for the time being. So let's import that somewhere here.
It's quite loud, isn't it?
Yeah, of course, yeah. That's nice.
Yeah.
Well, pretty nice. So we're getting something pretty, starting to sound like a sample. I mean, in that genre, obviously. There's another thing that you can do as well that I sometimes do. You know, when you take a sample, it's in the context of a tune. So sometimes you've got some sounds that are kind of the tails of sound coming from the bar before.
Yeah.
That are the beginning of where you're chopping your record, you know, where you're picking your sample from a whatever record. So one thing sometimes that I would do, software instrument, let's say, and I'm really doing something very quick here, but let's do that, for example. I'm gonna do that. And what I'm gonna do is record a little bit before that, like a chord or something. So we'll go for that. So now let's loop it. Okay, and what we're gonna do, let's see if that works. I'm gonna need to take it here. I'm gonna send that into a reverb to get a bit of that. Was it 3 for the plate? Yeah. It needs to make sense. So the beginning of the loop was where the kick here. Is it here? Yeah, so if I do that, and it's going to sound a bit rubbish now, but you'll see when you're cutting it, it's going to make sense. Or what I could do is bounce that actually in solo. So I'm going to do a bounce in place just for that part. Yeah, let's do that. Bounce in place. Source, delete, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, for now. That's that. Yeah, and then you can have that now back here. Could even just have the tail. See what I mean? For example, just as an idea, and you turn it down.
Yeah, really subtle, but
It's very subtle, but
all those little details.
all that really helps to start making it more like a sample. Yeah, and let's take, now we've got 2 bars, that kind of work for now. Yeah? Okay, so we've got something that's starting to sound like a sample. Another thing that, for me, if you want to make it a bit more gritty, a bit more unique, is basically putting it to tape. So that's why we've got this cassette.
Actual tape.
An actual tape, we have an actual cassette.
Tape.
A cassette.
Some from the 1800s.
Absolutely. So I've set up, let me have a look at my desk here. You'll see I've sent a bus here. I've got the same signal mono going to 3 and 4 of my sound cards. So 3 and 4 goes into the cassette. I'm setting up the level here, going to rec. And again, you can try to drive it. What I would do is probably do several passes, one at a normal level, and then drive it a bit more, and choose eventually what I like.
Yeah.
So let's go and record some of that. Shall we?
Let's. So there's a cassette in.
There is a cassette in. And it is recording. No bouncing.
Like the old days.
Yes. And I'm gonna do a second path a little bit hotter on tape. I mean, that is really obviously cassette. It's a grungy one, an old one. I haven't even cleaned the head. I haven't even.
Yeah,
So
that's part of the
it's going to be
sound,
really. We wanted something really rough for that. But you know, I still do a lot of that stuff where I've got a reel-to-reel Revox, quarter-inch at home, really in good nick. When I record bass and stuff and vocals, sometimes I put them to tape before putting them back into the computer to get that sound. Okay, so it's on the tape now. So hopefully it has recorded. We're going to rewind. Oh, isn't it beautiful? So now what we need to do is I'm going to mute the two tape, everything, so we shouldn't have anything. Yeah, well actually let's just mute everything really. Yeah, and we're going to from tape. So I've set up another track, which is this one here. And that's recording input 3 and 4, which comes into here, into my sound card. Let's play and see what happens here. Wow, this step is really not great. It's not coming off as well as I was hoping for. It should have been cleaned maybe a little bit.
Yeah, but it's, that's part of the sound, though.
Yeah, it's part of the sound.
You can always parallel that back in.
Yeah, absolutely, exactly. So let's get rid of that. Let's go there. Let's get rid of the metronome. Let's just go and record some of that in. Another one coming, hopefully a bit hotter on tape. Let's see what that does. That's the beauty of tape, you see.
Yeah.
You don't cue it as at will. Silences are going to be always awkward on both. It is coming, I hope. Maybe not.
Maybe not.
There we go. Yeah, it sounds a bit better when it's been recorded hotter, I think.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, definitely. It's more compressed, though, definitely.
Yeah.
But this is, I mean, you can pick one of these up on eBay for like, what, 30 quid?
Yeah, probably, yeah. So here we are. So now we've got our sample here. And then you pick up, you know, one that in there.
And then I guess you could then chop that up and
exactly
put it into.
Absolutely. I mean, after that, I would normally go there, and the way I should sample is normally I loop something that kind of. It's not looping like I would. Yeah, so you will make it a bit bigger. There we are, we've got our loop. Here we are, yeah.
Cool.
So that's the process, and then obviously after that, you export it. Let's say if we've gone for that selection. Is my selection gone now? Do we have any question that?
Just one, there's two so far, but Jackson Parody is asking, how do you make the best of a bad room for recording drums?
Go for grunge.
Yeah.
Go for grungy sound
Don't
like
try
that.
and hide it.
Yeah, don't try to hide it. Don't go for the drum sound. Use the room with a nice mic, actually.
Right.
I mean, these three mic techniques tends to work better with rooms that are less well designed and where the acoustic is a bit dodgy. Goes close miking.
Yeah.
And then
Cover yourself in a duvet.
you could also, yes, I mean, make the most of what you have. And I think the less mic, the better in general for drums, in my opinion. Anyway.
Oh, okay, the less mics.
Yeah, in my opinion.
Especially in a bad room.
And even so, I used to put lots of mics on drums. Like, when you start engineering, you get carried away. But there's a lot of phase issues with that. So.
Yeah. David Borrow's asking, why didn't you rewind the tape with a pencil?
Yeah.
You could do a whole FFL on that.
We could absolutely. Look, it's still playing. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that was the way. Those were the days. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, so, I mean,
that's the concept. After that, you could export and put it into your sample.
yeah, I mean, that's not even a track. That's just a sample you can now use.
You can use it. You can recycle it, quantize it. Even if you recycle it, you can start changing it.
Pitching
you could
it.
even take only the kick out of it, the snare out of it.
And no one else has that.
But nobody's going to have that.
Yeah.
It's totally unique to you. And like I've said, here, those techniques we've demonstrated were one way to approach it, but it doesn't, with the grit, you don't have to be, it depends on your style of music, but bringing a bit of grit in any genre at the moment, especially when everything is digital, can't do no harm.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
totally. Cool. So that is all the time we've got today. Hopefully you've got plenty of inspiration to get out there and record your own samples and make your own drum kits. Make sure you check out our courses for more on sound design, logic and music production at pointblanklondon.com, and we'll be back next Friday when we'll be taking a look at stem mixing and mastering, so don't miss that. We'll see you then. Cheers.